Guinness. I like Guinness. I can't stand porter. No, I like porters. Okay, I can't stand IPAs, and then anything else just rips up my stomach. And tequila gives me heartburn now. Fruity drinks are fun.
EMac's hosting, by the way. I don't know if that makes a difference in what you set up.
Yeah. You're not going to be here to watch. It doesn't matter. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I'm going to have Dr. Ehrenberg prescribe some lozenges for me. They wanted me in playback. They said they wanted me to get stoned and come on a show. I said, I think all I would do is just stare. I think I would move.
What's up, guys? By the way, we are live in playback.
Oh.
You weren't aware, EMac.
Well, there we go. Hey, Mom. All right, Stochastic, here we go. It's your old pal EMac coming to you on a Saturday, joined by one Greg Ehrenberg. Some know him best as Third Leg Greg. What's going on, Greg? You got to do a Saturday morning show without me. I was driving towards West Virginia this morning.
Yeah, unfortunately, it just wasn't the same. I love Matt. We had a good show this morning, but I was really missing my old pal EMac, but all good because we get to hang out here for the next hour. I've got UFC fights on one of my screens over here. It's good. We got NBA, we got UFC. There's a whole lot to sweat today.
Yeah, not to forget, we've got NHL going on. It's a barn burner. We have everything. There was tomorrow's League of Legends. You got golf today. Tomorrow you also have CS:GO, although they call it. It's not Count Global Offensive. It's something else now, Greg. I don't remember. I just call it. Well, I don't call it CS:GO anymore, at least. So
I never called it anything. It's hard to really. So like for you, like don't forget, there's hockey. So it's hard for me to remember things or forget things that I never knew about to begin with.
Gotcha. Alrighty, well, let's have some fun here. We have a 6-game slate on both sites, so they are aligned. Late swap is in play on both sites. They are skipping, I think there's 2 later games tonight that they're skipping, so everything ends. Sorry, I'm trying to get my ESPN up. Why is that? Why is ESPN not? It should just I should just set my page to open.
Problems ESPN. Early? What's happening in EMac Tech World?
Oh, it's one of those days. It's going to be a discombobulated show. Fortunately, we should have most of the news we're waiting on. So let's kind of hit on that at the moment. I wanted to call out that the Minnesota-Utah game at 9:30 and then the New York-Sacramento game at 10 are not on this slate. However, the sites are running some 2-game slates to catch those. So you guys can get that there, and our tools cover those, of course. Quickly hitting the news here for Portland, no Jeremy Grant, but they do have Scoot Henderson and Anthony Simons. Matisse Thybulle is out, but Jabari Walker is in. You've got no Larry Nance for New Orleans, and Herb Jones game time decision. He is dealing with a sore back. We have Charlotte lined up relatively nicely there. We do not have anybody to worry about there. Philly, however, no Tobias Harris, no DeAnthony Melton still. Why he's still listed on there, I don't know. But they have Nick Batum starting in a remember me spot. Indiana, we have Doug McDermott out and nobody else of note. And then Washington's going to be looked like it was going to be a little bit tricky. Early in the day, there Rashawn Holmes and Denny Abdia were questionable. They are both available tonight. Tyus Jones is doubtful. Landry Shamet is out. Marvin Bagley is out. So we're going to talk about the Wizards point guard situation ad nauseum. And then Kobe White, unlikely to play. I'm surprised he's not out for Chicago. And then, of course, Zach Attack is out, as is Patrick Williams. So we're going to have some tremendous Chicago value to discuss. And then Desmond Bane is back. That one caught me off guard, Greg. But not to be surprised. We're still waiting on news for Jaren Jackson and his quad. He has missed 3 of the last 8 games. Or 2, what is it? Yeah, 3 of the last 8, I think. Lamar Stevens is out. Vince Williams Jr. is doubtful. I don't think he's going to play. And that takes us to LeBron James, questionable. We know the drill there by now. Draymond and Steph Curry, questionable. Kerr has said, at least when I read this morning, expected both to play. Draymond missed the last game with the sore lower back, but given that this game is basically a bucket difference, I think they're going to be good. And you remember last time, that was the double overtime game, Greg, 145, 144. And this is the ABC game of the night. So any news that you're worried about? I mean, you're mostly assuming Tyus Jones and Kobe White are out, correct?
So if somebody's probable, I assume they're in. If somebody's doubtful, I assume they're out. It's not really something I sweat all that much. As far as the late game goes, we do have, like you mentioned, Steph Curry questionable, Draymond questionable. I tend to think that Draymond's out last game is rest in preparation for this game. It was something I talked about with Bellman on the strategy show this morning. If you look at the standings, this is massively, massively impactful for playoff odds because you currently have the Warriors as the 10 seed in the West, the Lakers as the 9 seed. The most likely scenario is these teams are going to be playing each other in the very first round of the play-in, and it's going to be uphill sledding for whoever's the 10 seed, because if you're the 10 seed, you have to win 2 road games in a row just to be the 8 seed in the playoffs. So this is a game that could be massively, massively important for whoever gets the home matchup for when the 9 and 10 seed play each other in that play-in. So I have seen that, the injury report, these two guys being questionable. But I think for Steph Curry, they've always been targeting this game as his return. Draymond just kind of rested last game in preparation for this game. And then, what can we say about LeBron? He's listed as questionable every single game.
Yeah, it's we know the drill at this point. But I kind of wake up every day feeling a little questionable myself. Once you hit a certain age, Greg, it just it sort of becomes de rigueur, to borrow a French phrase, and mispronounce it. I never took French. We only had Spanish in my school.
It's totally irrelevant to take French. Like, what is it? What's it going to help you with? Like, I go to France once in my life and order a baguette, and now I know how to do it. There's zero utility to knowing French. Spanish, tons of Spanish speaking people. Have you come across a single person in the US that only speaks French?
That only speaks French? No, but we did have a French exchange student live with us when I was a kid. For a year.
Yeah, well, I'm sure they probably spoke English as well. There was no long-lasting value to knowing French at any point in time. So, a total waste of a language. You're much better with a base of Spanish.
All right. Well, muy bien and merde.
Yeah, and more importantly, Herb Jones during your intro was ruled out. So, of the players that are actually impactful, they're waiting for injury news on. Herb Jones is one of them. He's been ruled out. So we are no longer going to be waiting on that information. All the lineups I've built out here in front of me, totally worth this, because Herb Jones being out on a 6-game slate is going to change some things here. Now, with that said, the players that we already liked from the New Orleans Pelicans, and I'm actually going to check what it is that I had for my actual exposures here. A lot of the guys we liked, we are still going to like, but now I'm going to assume this is going to start to bring players like Najee Marshall potentially in play. I think he's going to have to play extended minutes. Jose Alvarado looks a little bit better. The Pelicans are just going to be forced to play small lineups now because they have no Herb Jones, and they often go to him in small ball lineups, and then they could play traditionally either they'll go to Larry Nance at center. They could give, when Valanciunas is on the court, they give Zion center minutes at points in time. I don't think they're going to play Cody Zeller big minutes or anything like that. So Najee Marshall, Jose Alvarado, they're both going to see an uptick in playing time. And same with Trey Murphy, although Murphy already plays pretty significant amount of minutes. But these are the 3 guys that are getting boosts in the absence of Herb Jones.
Yeah, Grand Theft Alvarado is going to be very much in play with this one. He was popping up, was it last night or 2 nights ago that he was? Oh, it was last night, because this is back-to-back for New Orleans. Feels like a lifetime ago. Zion looked damn good in the game last night. I was surprised.
He did. He's looked good for a while now. And Valanciunas, by the way, was somebody who I already had a ton of exposure to. That is going to remain unchanged. The main reason for that is with Larry Nance out, him and Valanciunas typically split center minutes. Mm-hmm. Now we're probably getting like 30-ish minutes out of Valanciunas potentially. That makes him look like a really strong option, especially in a good matchup against Portland, because DeAndre Ayton can't defend anything.
All right. Real quick, we did get 2 starting lineups here. We've got the Hornets. They've got Misic, Trey Mann, Brandon Miller, Miles Bridges, and Nick Richards. Then we also got Portland. They have Anthony Simons, Delano Banton, Chris Murray, Toumani Camara. I never say his first name. I always just say Camara. And then DeAndre Ayton. Ayton has been a revelation as well. Remember when he was feeling like he was underappreciated and he should be among the top players in the league, et cetera, et cetera. He's finally sort of playing like it, although he has 3 different injury absences this season, but he's looked pretty good as recently. I almost said of late. I try to never say that phrase. That's true tout life, Greg, to use that phrase in your vernacular.
Lexicon.
The lexicon, yes. So where are you on the guards, and why is it Alex Caruso? That is one of your favorite plays tonight.
Yeah, so it's pretty difficult to get away from Caruso. It's very difficult to get away from the Bulls as a whole on this slate. That applies to both DraftKings and FanDuel. It's a 6-game slate. We do have more value that's opening up. So one of the fallouts of Herb Jones being ruled out and some more Pelicans value popping up is that this is likely going to mean that the Bulls value isn't quite as necessary. Now, with that said, my current exposure to the Bulls, like Caruso's in 64% of lineups, Dosunmu's in 56% of lineups. So still core plays, but I'll probably get you a few less shares of them to allocate some more exposure to these Pelicans guys. But the reason they look so good, to your question, EMac, is that they aren't priced up at all from the absence of Kobe White. They never even really got priced up for the absence of Zach LaVine. The price have remained pretty static over the course of the last month or so. Now you're taking Kobe White out of the mix because he's doubtful to play. So with that in mind, good matchup against the Wizards. The price have been completely unmoved for either the matchup or for Kobe White being out. So you just got all this extra usage available. You got extra playing time available. So this Bulls team, there's so much ownership going to it, but it really does make sense. I'm going to sort by the Bulls here in terms of my other exposures to them and the exposures that are projected by the field in the contest generator. Although with that said, that is about to change shortly for the update to Herb Jones. But we have north of 40% projected ownership, EMac, on DeRozan, Dosunmu, Caruso, and Torrey Craig. The only reason Vooch isn't at that mark is because after Larry Nance got ruled out, we saw increased projections on Jonas Valanciunas. His ownership came up, but Vooch was also going to be a 40+% guy until we got the Valanciunas piece that opened up for us. So there's a lot of guys to get to from the Bulls. Craig, Caruso, Dosunmu, DeRozan, Vooch. All 5 of those guys are in 30+% of my lineups.
Talk to me a little bit about Torrey Craig. I know he's power forward. I know we're kind of hitting on the backcourt right now, but he's someone that is a large piece to the puzzle here. Do you see him as an equivalent play to Butler, who is likely going to be starting for the Wizards or playing a prominent role? Do you think he's better? I know they're at different positions and drastically different price points, but they're kind of that 0.8 fantasy point per minute archetype here. How are you feeling about Craig? Because you look at his box score and you're just like, damn, look at how bad that is. But you got to remember, it's the PJ Tucker. He's out there for defense. He doesn't do a lot of other stuff. Tonight, he's going to need to do some other stuff. And he's showing flashes with that at every stop he's made throughout his career.
Well, I'm not sure that we were going to see Butler start. I actually think Poole might be a little bit more likely to start than him. So that's something to also consider for the comparison of Butler against Torrey Craig. I do have a little bit more exposure to Torrey Craig between the two of them. And a lot of it's because I think the minutes are more secure for Torrey Craig. And you look at, we already have a game here, right? We saw last game where Torrey Craig started. He played with Kobe White being out. And we got 27 minutes in a start out of Torrey Craig, but the game was also a blowout. The starters didn't finish the game. It was a 15-point game there. It was also the tail end of a back-to-back, so the Bulls might have had a little bit quicker of a trigger to take starters out of the game. But I think Torrey Craig could potentially play 30-plus minutes in a start here, and I'd be very surprised if that's the playing time Butler gets.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The Wizards can go with Abdia and Poole at point guard and not really lose too much. So, or as, kind of the facilitators, because pretty much everybody that's going to be out there aside from Rashawn Holmes is a capable passer of their regulars. So Butler was just really intriguing at $100 off the minimum on FanDuel at 3,600 and then DraftKings at 3,000 even. You start looking at someone that if he starts, he's going to be phenomenal. But you're right. If he comes off the bench, now you're starting to say, okay, well, what can he get us in 22 minutes? Does he have enough oomph to get up to 20 fantasy points at that point? And that is, I guess, one we'll be waiting for. We may not have that starting lineup actually by the time the contests lock. Of course, we do have a late swap tonight on both sites, but that's going to be a crucial piece of news that we'll want to take care of.
Yeah, we have 3 games locking at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Pelicans Pelicans and Blazers, 76ers and Hornets, Nets and Pacers. Then there's a really big gap. We have an hour before any other games start. So I do agree with you. I don't think we're going to get that Wizards starting lineup until post lock, which for me, totally cool. I'm ready to do nothing but late swap and watch some UFC on a Saturday night at EMac.
It's going to be a good one. Yeah, USC started a little earlier today. It didn't look like it was that great of a what do they call it? The championship, the main event fight. I saw that just based on the projections, both the guys we were projecting what for around 65 or so DK points. That surprised me. Usually you see one of them around the 90s.
It's because so I mean, nobody. I would get into it. Nobody gives a shit enough about UFC though, so I don't want everybody to just leave if I talk about UFC projections.
I'm trying to troll everybody. This will be fun. I was trying to get you off topic here because I know you love to talk UFC because you follow it very closely. You know what we are going to do to honor chat? They did ask us, hey, what is the best Oddshopper play of the day? Well, I will actually tell you that. Currently, because this shifts throughout the day, this is a market-based approach. You guys can sign up. It's $14.95 per week. It is $49.95 per month, and that does give you access to Discord with all of the experts and other fervent bettors there that are in the mix. Right now, it's Malik Monk under 3.5 rebounds. That is plus 110 odds. It's a plus 11% expected value, 53% chance of it coming to fruition that he gets fewer than 4 rebounds. But the important thing to remember is that plus money makes this a pretty decent bet, even though the win percentage is kind of below that 55-56% mark that we look at. Now that one's only available at Fanatics. So the more common one would be Nick Batum under 5.5 rebounds. Now he is starting tonight, but under 5.5 rebounds, that's available on Caesars. And I'm sorry, that's available on BetMGM. BetMGM has that at minus 105. We say that is probably a minus 123 probability of happening. So that's giving you a 7.5% expected value or a positive ROI. So, and if you guys haven't signed up yet for BetMGM, you can go to the description below us here on the YouTube page, click through our link, you put in a deposit of $10, make a $5 wager. Boom, they're going to give you $150. It's a no-brainer bet. That is going away in a couple days.
No, it already went away. It's already done.
It's gone?
It's gone.
Oh, no.
It's gone. Kapoof.
So people waited too long and they didn't get it. Well, let's see what they're getting now, Greg, since
so instead, what talk about Sleeper is the sponsor because there's a free square on Sleeper for Anthony Davis over 0.5 points.
Well, that's good though. But I was looking at ad read number 3. I was trying to incorporate it here. I'm taking a little creativity.
All good. But I mean, hey, Sleeper, people take advantage of that. You get over 0.5 points for Anthony Davis when you sign up with our link.
So here's the really good part with Sleeper, the $500 deposit match. I have a feeling my wife's going to want to sign up for that tonight because, you know, that's something that she really wants to get into, especially before March Madness here, because they do have college props on there as well as most of the other major sports. We got a couple super chats here, Greg. Steve McGee, using his membership chat of 35 months, says, who are we playing on DK for a low upside winning? So I think who is your contrarian play over there on DK?
Yeah, so it's hard for me to say contrarian because we don't have a ownership update for the Hornets or for the Pelicans news just because it's so fresh and just came out. We're going to get one soon, but it's hard for me to say contrarian play just from a standpoint of I don't know what the ownership is going to be. But if I just had to wager like a best guess for who I'm going to like that is going to potentially be contrarian on the slate, like I want to say Najee Marshall. I just don't know how popular he's going to be.
Okay. Let me see if I can change my mic a little bit here for people. Hopefully this will not be too loud, but I am going to adjust that for y'all. And guys, we covered all the injuries. We've talked some strategy on the end game, and you're saying we haven't even really started the show yet? Where you been, fellas? Where you been?
We talked on the injuries. We talked about all the Bulls value.
We talked about the Washington potential changes in the backcourt with Jordan Poole and Avdija.
Herb Jones being out.
A lot of stuff. You guys can't sleep. Got to pay attention to it. Let's see. FanDuel plays by position for cash for Deuce Trey.
So FanDuel plays for cash. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the FanDuel side of things now. And at least for cash games here, I do have like a pretty good idea of where you guys should be going, particularly over on FanDuel, where I have built out some lineups here. And you really do want to be loading up on the Bulls in cash games. So let's see. Guys who I would did he ask for a certain number of cash game plays or just
I would
okay,
assume. I
position
would
by
assume.
position?
Yeah, by position.
All right.
So, it's going to be a Bulls backcourt. You really could go with Caruso, Dosunmu, and Torrey Craig. Craig's shooting guard. Overall, I think he's power forward. I think he's shooting guard over here on FanDuel. Those guys really stand out. Tyrese Maxey. Now that there's no Tobias Harris, I think he's going to be a strong play. Greg mentioned that he's expecting a minutes bump that could see to somewhere between 28 and 30 for Jonas Valanciunas. That feels like a good cash play. And then I like DeMar DeRozan. I might even go for Bulls in this one.
Yeah. So I like how you did that because part of this too, like at point guard, you want to have all three of these guys in cash games. You want to have Caruso, Dosunmu, and Torrey Craig all in cash. But if I'm actually just going position by position, I'm not going to be able to name one of those guys. So I'm happy you grouped them all together, EMac, because Caruso, Dosunmu, Torrey Craig, you guys should be playing all of them in cash. The small forward that makes the most sense to me in cash games is Kelly Oubre. At power forward, LeBron James. And then at center's kind of tough because I also think Vooch is a very strong cash play over on FanDuel. Let me see what the projected ownership is here. Yeah, I think you have to play Vooch in cash games on FanDuel. He's projected for 40% ownership. So Valanciunas, his ownership projection is likely to come up a little bit now that Herb Jones is out. But as just a tiebreaker between the two, Vooch being 40% owned and then Valanciunas being, I don't know, call it 20% after we get the update. I'll give the tiebreak to the massive ownership on Vooch, who's probably going to be like 60, 70% owned in cash games. So I'll say Vooch at center for FanDuel cash.
Okay. I'm looking forward to getting questions for MLB cash because I had a lot of fun with that in the giant single entry double ups last year, Greg. And I'm looking forward to it. Baseball is right around the corner. Of course, we're going to have all of the usual tools for that. There will be the lineup generator, the Sims, everything you guys know and love, the top stacks tool, all that good stuff right around the corner here. All righty, back to the fun. All right, let me know how this sounds, Dupree. I will try. I'm talking a little bit louder, and I believe I reset the volume here, hopefully. Two favorite plays by position. This is for Thomas Ryan over on DK, por favor.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the top two players. I'm getting to the most on DraftKings, and I still do need to run a Sims update once we get some of the updates to ownership. But now with that said, I don't think this is going to drastically change some of the players that I have the most exposure to in each position. It's like it'll change the percentage I have, but for the purpose of this question, it shouldn't really make too big of a difference. So two favorite plays per position on DraftKings. All right, so starting at point guard, that is Dosunmu and Tyrese Maxey. At shooting guard, Alex Caruso and Kelly Oubre. At small forward, DeRozan, and then also a lot of Oubre and Caruso. So I'll say Oubre, just Oubre at small forward. Those other guys also with small forward eligibility. Power forward, Torrey Craig and Paul Reed. And then at center, Valanciunas and Vooch.
All right. One thing I meant to ask you on Dosunmu, he's like with metronome-like consistency, gets right around 30 fantasy points most games. We don't see much of a ceiling on him. Do you feel the matchup could coax one out of him tonight, or are you just happy with anything over 30 at his price point?
Well, I mean, the other part of this too is that Kobe White isn't usually out. So that in itself is going to pretty drastically change the outlook for Ayo Dosunmu. I'll pull up the on-off court numbers for the Bulls here for a couple of reasons. First, there's more usage for Dosunmu when he's on the court now, and he's going to have to play more minutes also when you consider the absence of Kobe White. So I'm looking at the on-off court numbers. I'm taking Kobe White and Zach LaVine both off the court. And in that scenario, Ayo is a 0.84 DraftKings fantasy point per minute guy. And let's see, what are we projecting for minutes for Ayo? Ayo's minutes, and everything's updated now, at least from the projection standpoint for Herb Jones. So Io, yeah, we have Io projected for 37 minutes, EMac. So here's like some real simple math that you guys can do for these sorts of situations. Io, 0.84 DraftKings points per minute, right? So you take the 0.84 and you multiply it by the 37 minutes that we're projecting for him. And that gets you a projection of 31.08 fantasy points is like a reasonable baseline to expect. And then on top of that, really good matchup against the Wizards, up pace spot. So that's also a little bit of a boost for him. So all that being considered, the price point for Io, I do think he's a strong play and do think he has upside as well.
Okay. It was one of those where I just it feels a little funky. Feels a little funky. Desmond Bain starting. Team will be keeping an eye on his minutes.
Cool. And whoever knows what the hell that means, keeping an eye on it. Because is the implication of that in other situations, coaches have no clue how many minutes guys play? They're like, I don't know. Maybe he played 14. Maybe he played 50 minutes. Who's to say? We weren't watching it. They know.
Some of these coaches seemingly get surprised by the fact that they're in charge.
They do. Because you do see the coaches with the coach speak where they'll say, like, boy, I wish this guy would have played more. It's like, well, you could have put him in. You could have put him in. It wasn't anybody else's decision but yours. But yeah, there is some goofy coach speak that gets me as well. By the way, we do have an ownership update now for the Pelicans situation. So I'm going to go through this on both DraftKings as well as FanDuel. But starting with DK, here are the updated ownerships. We now have Jonas Valanciunas at 47.4% projected ownership. Ingram 14.8, Murphy 13.9, Zion 13.5. So actually wasn't really that much that changed in terms of the ownership for this team. So once again, if I'm just talking about a contrarian play to get to, Najee Marshall remains pretty contrarian. Not that he's somebody you want to be like loading up on or anything like that, but there's opportunity for extra minutes for him for sure in the absence of Herb Jones. If we're looking at the FanDuel projected ownerships now, for the Pelicans, we now have Ingram at 31%, Valanciunas at 20, Zion at 16.6, Murphy at 14, and then McCollum at 12.5. That is the most recent ownership that we have in here now for the FanDuel side of things.
All righty. Let's see. We've got another super chat that popped up here. This is from Patrick Rose, $5 celebrating his 5th super chat on a live stream. Zion and LeBron. This is on FanDuel. Okay. Zion and LeBron or Maxey and DeRozan.
Zion and LeBron or Maxey and DeRozan. That's pretty clearly Maxey and DeRozan for me.
I would agree with that as well. Mostly in Zion's playing, these are important games. It's a back-to-back. He played in their last back-to-back. I'm expecting him for around 30 minutes, but it's a tiny downtick for me with Zion. Maxey gets a little bit of a boost without Harris, and then we've already talked about Double D, DeMar DeRozan. Let's see here. There's not a lot of super-duper stars on the slate. Well, like the MVP candidates outside of Gilgeous-Alexander. I guess we probably need to hit on him real quick, just as the last thought on the guards here. He is OKC 11-point favorites in Memphis. Do you feel that Gilgeous-Alexander is someone that you will be missing out on if you don't have him? Do you have a fear factor, a fear of missing out? Oh, that's a good acronym, FOMO. I should patent that.
Yeah, so not really, mostly because there isn't really a ton of super cheap punt plays to get to on this slate. Like there are some cheap guys that we like getting to, like Torrey Craig, for instance, but it's not like those 3K guys. Butler's in play, but he's not a priority or anything like that. And the other issue too is that there's a bunch of guys, and by the way, issue in terms of wanting to get to SGA, there's a lot of plays in like the upper mid-range that are really strong options, like DeMar DeRozan we've already talked about, and Valanciunas, for instance, Vooch. So when we've got all of these guys to get to, they're just better points per dollar plays than SGA. So I find there to be a pretty big opportunity cost of playing a bunch of Shea when you consider that there aren't a bunch of super cheap punts that we like. And then also rostering him probably means foregoing some of the exposure to guys like DeRozan and Vooch and players along those lines.
Right. Just set my Yahoo lineup. Get that uploaded. I don't know why people don't like to play on Yahoo, Greg. It's a good site. Oftentimes
I don't like them.
I know you hate them. You hate them. You'd besmirch their good name. All righty, let's get back to the fun here.
Well, they stopped paying us.
Well,
That's a good reason to not like him. I've got a business to run. We got jobs to do here, Mac. We got bills to pay.
There are other sites that get mentioned here that don't hand out any freebies. So just putting it out there. Can you guess what question we didn't get until just now? It feels lonely that we didn't get it until just now, but it's from our most regular super chats.
Ooh, so I'm gonna guess it's from Ace of Spade.
Okay.
And he wants to know how big EMac's penis is.
Oh, it's like that much. 2 inches of bald thunder. That's all you guys need to know.
Tell me when to stop. Tell me when to stop. Tell me when we're there.
He would like to know what sort of tiers advice you can hand out tonight.
Yep. So I'll pull up the DK tiers here, which I don't think any of this has been impacted by the recent news, but I'm just going to double check to make sure nothing changed. Yeah, no, this should all be still the same as when I ran it before the show. Tier 1, that is Anthony Davis for me. Yep. Tier 2, by the way, do you have ones as well? Or if not, I can just run through them.
No, just run through them. Chad doesn't like I talk. I got chastised. I'll spend more time Sunday talking about them, but we'll let you have the floor.
Let's see what we have here. By the way, Stephen Leibowitz says Greg has way too many penis references with his co-host. I strongly disagree. Never enough. Tier 2, that is Tyrese Maxey. That's, Maxey just really benefiting. We already knew Embiid was out, but now Tobias Harris being out as well. Maxey's the guy in tier 2. Tier 3, that is going to be Vooch for me over DeMar DeRozan. For classic contests, I'm going to have more exposure to DeRozan, but that's because of what his position is. Whereas in tiers where it's just who's going to score more fantasy points, I prefer Vooch. Tier 4, that is DeAndre Ayton. Tier 5, that is going to be Denny Avdia for me. And then tier 6, Miles Turner. So those are the best options, in my opinion, at each spot in tiers.
Yeah. Miles Turner, bit of a surprise there. Okay. Let's see. Let's use that to kind of leverage our way as we meander towards forwards. We have, and front court, actually, we have 27 minutes here until lock. Just a reminder, if you guys sign up through Sleeper, you want to go through the link in our YouTube description here because you're going to get a $500 deposit match with your first deposit. Those are pretty good deals. They have multipliers on their cards. You can move players up and down in some cases for some of the lines that you're choosing. And then they also have up to a 100x payout. That is pretty lofty. It's a good time, and they're often giving out free squares. Tonight, for new people who sign up, you will get more than half a point for Anthony Davis. So pretty good deal there. And remember, friends and family can sign up there too. Just throwing that out there. Let's see. Chris Williams says, quick thanks for all of the content. He split first in the $15 showdown last night.
Very nice.
Once again, that is pretty impressive. He would just like to know any showdown help for tonight would be great. It can be after tip off. Yeah, we can definitely accommodate that for you, Chris. We'll stay on for a couple minutes there.
I actually can't.
I will accommodate that for you.
But what I will do, Chris, I'll run lineups for showdown. And then before the show ends, we could circle back on it.
There we go. Look at that. We're going to be out of here on time and early, but we'll definitely keep playback running. And if you guys are over there in playback, hit that subscribe button in the upper left. We're up to about just over 1,700 subscribers here. You can also download the app and it will let you know when we are going live. We're going to have some more pop-up shows there as we get into baseball and some of the other stuff. Plus, as anybody, once we have signed off, we keep this running the rest of the night. But if anybody has a good sweat, we'll jump on live as well. So check that out over there on playback. All right, the front court here, Greg. Would you like to espouse the virtues of DeAndre Ayton as a counterpoint to the Jonas Valanciunas, Nikola Vucevic?
Could you repeat the question again?
Do you like Ayton?
Oh, DeAndre Ayton. Not really. So the biggest issue with there's a bunch of issues with DeAndre Ayton. The biggest one, though, is opportunity cost at center. There's a lot of good center plays. So earlier in the day when I was running lineups, I was getting to Ayton in like 10% of lineups, which at the time was underweight to the field. And that was before we had Valanciunas as a really strong option. That was before we had, I'm trying to think who, now Vooch was still popping up in lineups. But the point being is that earlier in the day, I was only getting to 10% Ayton, and that was before Valanciunas became such a strong option on DraftKings. So too much of an opportunity cost at center. There's like, I don't know, 10 better center options than Ayton tonight.
All
That might be a little
right.
bit of an exaggeration, but a lot of other ones I prefer.
Are you sure that's his biggest problem? I don't know. Just check it. Just check it.
As a DFS
Oh,
option
okay.
tonight, it is.
Okay.
But in real life, I would say his inability to catch passes, his inability to defend, his inability to really do anything that you consider a positive benefit to a team. The fact that he doesn't really seem to give a shit. He doesn't play hard. He's not always well conditioned. He's got injury issues. There's a few problems. For today, opportunity cost is one of them as well, though.
All right. Shout out to Chris Williams, who just handed out 5 YouTube memberships. So enjoy those who get them. Well, let's talk real quick here. The Pelly's starting lineup came out. It is McCollum, Ingram, Trey Murphy, Zion, and Jonas Valanciunas. The Pacers is up. It is Halliburton, Nembhard, Nesmith, Siakam, and Miles Turner. And Tyus Jones officially ruled out. Is Jabari Walker viable on FanDuel? That is a super chat from Squeak Diesel using his 5-month membership chat.
No, that is a hard pass for me. So Jabari Walker, I know earlier in the day he was doubtful, and now he's going to play. Maybe if he ends up starting, I would feel differently, but he hasn't played for a meaningful amount of time. The last time he was in a game was about 2 weeks ago. And at that point in time, he was playing 19 minutes was that last game he played. He did foul out of that. But now that we're seeing a healthier version of the Blazers, which we haven't seen a whole bunch, and I know they still have guys out, but we've seen like more unhealthy versions of the Blazers. And also considering him coming off an injury, I think we're probably getting sub 20 minutes out of Walker.
Okay. Fair enough. Let's see. Do I want to enter any more contests, or shall I start running the Sims here? Because it is that kind of a night here. Let's enter a couple more. Make sure I can build out 150 here on DK. As we continue looking at some of the other options here in the front court, it's interesting when you start to get Anthony Davis center only. Even on DraftKings, that starts to crowd things out because you've got Vooch, you've got who else is on there? We already mentioned Ayton. How do you feel about Davis and LeBron? The dynamic duo of the front court.
Two of my favorite spend up options on the slate, if we're going to get like more expensive than the Bulls guys. One of the reasons too is they're a little bit less expensive than SGA, but also they have better positionality. There's so many guards that we like getting to on this slate between Caruso, Dosunmu, Tyrese Maxey. And that's another reason as well that it kind of gets difficult to go ahead and play somebody like SGA is because if you're playing SGA, well, you're probably now losing a spot where you were going to be rostering Tyrese Maxey or Dosunmu or Caruso. So now, as far as Anthony Davis and LeBron goes, the reason I prefer LeBron to AD is also at center. We have Vooch, we have Valanciunas, whereas the small forward, power forward eligibility that LeBron has today, that's really good positionality, and there just aren't as many strong plays at that spot relative to the other positions. So I know you were more specifically asking me about AD. That was what you led with. And I don't have an issue with AD, but I prefer LeBron just because of the position he's eligible at, even though we do have AD projected a little better.
Okay, that's totally fair. I see someone asking, will Reed get more minutes? Reed's minutes are going to be heavily dependent on his foul trouble. He has been playing in a lot of cases more than Mo Bamba when he had been coming off the bench. His per 36 foul minutes or per 36-minute foul rate is down to a career low 4.7. He had 5.9 last year, 6.8 the year prior to that. So he is getting a little bit more disciplined on that. So that is leading to some of his phenomenal fantasy games, but he has disappeared from time to time. But it's that is kind of the governing factor for his additional minutes. And I saw one other question there, and I should have kept it. I did not. Do we know anything on the Washington Wizards situation? We don't. We don't know for sure who's going to start. There's a chance Jordan Poole rejoins the starting lineup. They could go with Butler. They could throw a wild card out there and have Denny Abdia sort of be technically the facilitator or the lead facilitator on it. We don't know yet, and we probably won't have that starting lineup before tip off here, which is in 20 minutes.
We do have a bunch of questions in Discord
Oh,
too. Were there any other super chats there? If not, we can start reading some of the Discord questions.
There is Alex Caruso or Kelly Oubre just came in.
Well, they're in. Is there any more
That is the
context to that?
It's Active Guru.
Okay. So if price point doesn't matter at all?
I think aren't they sort of, what is
Uber? Uber is a little bit more expensive, but nothing really crazy. But yeah, if price point doesn't matter, the answer is Uber.
I have Caruso in a lot of my lineups. My Yahoo lineup has both Oubre and Caruso for what it's worth.
Part of that's going to be though because Oubre is more expensive.
Yeah,
not like significantly so, but the $200 does make a little bit of a difference.
All right, what is coming up there on Discord?
Yep, I'm just gonna kick off one sim here, and then as that is running, let's see what we have here in Discord. First from Parker Boy says he needs 3 pick 6 plays. What do we recommend? I can't see pick 6, unfortunately, Parker. Wish I could help you. The good news on that front is that very, very soon we are going to have projections for pick 6 in Oddshopper. But unfortunately, one of the things with Oddshopper with pick 6 is that when you don't have access to it, like it doesn't let you view it at all in DraftKings. You try to pull up the lines and it just throws you away. At least that's what it does from New Jersey. Is that the case for you as well?
I figured it out. Hold on. I agree. Yes, so I can actually see them. So let me look. You continue answering questions. I'm gonna look I'm gonna cross-reference with Oddshopper and see if I can find a couple here. But the key things you guys want to remember for pick 6 as you are playing them, they are static, they don't change. You can late swap at any time, and the payout is essentially, I believe the term is parimutuel wagering, but you're going sort of peer-to-peer, so it's the same prize pool, and depending on that prize, as many people join, that's sort of how the payouts work. It ends up being how people win and how they divide that up, but there can be overlay. So I don't know the exact term of that wagering, but let me look at some of these real quick here, Greg, and you can answer some of the questions.
Yep. So if I go ahead and look at what else we have in Discord here while you're looking that up, Rico Rod 1980 wants to know who my favorite plays are at each position on FanDuel, as well as the priorities from the Bulls. Well, the good news here is a lot of this is going to get answered at the same time, because for the Bulls priorities on FanDuel, it's pretty much all of them. But if I'm just going through the one player of the most exposure to at each position on FanDuel, it's Caruso at point guard. Shooting guard would also be Caruso, but next most is Torrey Craig. Small forward, Kelly Oubre. Power forward, LeBron James. And then center, Nikola Vucevic over on FanDuel. As far as the overall priorities from the Bulls, like I said, it is a lot of these guys. I have north of 40% of Caruso, Craig, Vooch, Dosunmu, and DeRozan on FanDuel. All 5 of those guys are north of 40% of my FanDuel lineups. And there's tiers to them as well. So I consider Caruso and Craig tier 1 on FanDuel as far as like points per dollar options go. Then Vooch, Dosunmu, DeRozan, they're all grouped together in a second tier for me.
All right. So key ones here that align with Oddshopper: the under on 3.5 rebounds for Malik Monk, the under on rebounds for, who was it? Chet Holmgren at 8.5. That looks good. And then I'll see if I can find a couple others. But remember, these are static, so I'm kind of cross-referencing with live lines. So like if we look at Jonas Valanciunas, he's got 4 picks there. Currently, his under is 11.5 rebounds, and it's shaded towards slightly positive. On this line here, he's 9.5. So you would want to take the over on pick 6. So you gotta understand the context, and that with Herb Jones being out, that's and Larry Nance Jr. These were posted prior to that information.
The next question that we have in here, by the way, people are bringing it up in chat. The Justin Fields traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 4th round pick. So not a whole lot of value gotten there by the Bears out of Justin Fields. I thought they were going to trade him for something with a little bit more value than that, but Clear indication, by the way, the betting odds already suggested it. But if you guys have any books available that don't have Caleb Williams as just a lock to be the first overall pick, probably go ahead and bet on that. But anyway, if we go ahead, also, what are the Steelers going to do at quarterback now this year?
Well, they promised Russell Wilson the starting job, and they said they weren't going to bring in competition, but we've seen how he's played. And this is, as a Seahawks fan, very fond memories of Dangerous taking us to the Super Bowl. But Wilson may be a little long in the tooth at this point. So I would expect to see Fields at some point, and then the injuries, etc. with football. But now you're tricking me into talking football like I was trying to trick you into talking MMA, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, it was news. I saw somebody bring it up in the chat, and then I went and looked it up and kind of just caught me off guard how little it was.
I can't wait until my boss talks to me after the show about staying on topic. This is going to be fun.
Also, I needed to stall to get my lineups uploaded, which I now have done. As far as our next question in Discord, it is coming to us from Ethan7. Ethan wants to know, who is our favorite single entry pivot for the slate? Let's see. Who's somebody, and I assume there's not going to be any other news that we're getting that's about to come in, but who's somebody that I'm well overweight to the field to that isn't as popular in single entry?
And is this DK?
Yes. Single entry pivot.
Mine's going to be Optia.
I'm going to say Paul Reed for me. Paul Reed. With Tobias Harris out, I think that does open up more opportunities for Paul Reed. They might even end up playing, not saying this is going to happen, but it could happen. They could play Paul Reed at power forward when Bamba's playing center minutes. They could play together. That's a possibility. And then something else that could also end up, well, something else that should happen is more usage for Paul Reed when he's on the court. So Paul Reed, I'm like double the field on him.
On a fun note, those two, Reed and Optia, are adjacent in the DK projected percentages. All right. Let's see. You mentioned we got most of the news that we are expecting. Any other Discord queries for us?
Yes. Next question here is from Sniffs1234. He says, if Butler starts, are you going to jam him? So I'll be playing more of him than I currently am. I have Butler in, let's see, I've got Butler in about 15% of lineups right now. So if I was actually be more exact, I have him in 14.6% of lineups. So would I be jamming him? I'd get more of him than I have right now, but I don't think that would mean like Butler gets his way into like 80% of lineups or anything like that. But maybe he gets into like 30% of lineups in his start.
I was going to say 30 to 40% would be my guess for where I'll end up on him. And for me, it's mostly because, well, he's played on 3 teams in 3 years. He was a second-round draft pick 3 years ago. He's made this. If he starts, this will be his 3rd career start. I'm just not overly excited about him.
The next question we have is from Master PJ. He says the Sims are giving him 30% of Neesmith. That feels like too much. What did I do with Neesmith here? Yeah, that does seem like a lot of Neesmith. I only have Neesmith in 6% of lineups. So yeah, I would say that 30% of Neesmith is super aggressive. I mean, I guess it makes, if you're playing 10 lineups, he shows up in 3 of them. Like, all right, 3 out of 10, that's, not all that crazy. But if you're playing like a significant amount of lineups and you have 30% of Neesmith, that's a little high in my opinion.
Let's see here. We mentioned Squeak Diesel. Here we go. Big Boy I says, and some unique currency here. Reed and LeBron. I'm going to, even though it's spelled like Nas Reed, I'm going to assume it is Paul Reed and LeBron, or McDaniel. No, it must be a Reed because McDaniels is on Minnesota. So Reed and LeBron, or McDaniels and AD.
Reed and LeBron or McDaniels and AD. Okay, Reed and LeBron. Man, this is hard because I don't I don't have lineups run that because the Minnesota game's not on the slate.
But it will be on the later slate.
Oh, good point.
The way they've designed it. We just don't. Oh, you could probably flip it and run it.
No, it's not on the late slate either, though. Like, because he's asking about the Lakers players, right? So
Yes.
there is no slate that has LeBron, AD, and the Timberwolves. Like the late 2-game slate is Minnesota, Utah, and is New York, Sacramento. You know what I mean?
Unless he's playing on Yahoo.
I would be curious. So part of this too is like, because now I don't know what site he's playing on or what the scoring settings are. I'll give you my best guess here is going to be McDaniels and AD. But once again, I don't know exactly what site he's playing on or what the scoring is. But McDaniels and AD is my guess.
Hockey, they're saying, hey, maybe the all-day slate. Hey, hockey had an all-day slate today. Those are pretty rare. All right, we got 9 minutes to go here. Time to get serious, Greg.
Your lineups uploaded?
No, I have not run them yet, but
Okay.
I've got it. We have the Sims.
Dome Favors, another great name in the Discord chat. Dome Favors wants to know Jonas Valanciunas or Paul Reed. I prefer Valanciunas over Paul Reed. So Paul Reed is a very good. I mean, he's not like super low owned or anything, but while I am overweight to Paul Reed, I have more exposure to Valanciunas than I do to Reed. What was the question you're going to ask me, Mac?
Oh no, I'm looking. I can't find. Oh, there. I was looking for audio. Okay, you've got to give him a little boost to make sure I get him. Oh, Cam Thompson. We haven't mentioned anybody from Brooklyn.
Let me look at my exposures from Brooklyn. I don't know that there's a bunch of teams that I have almost no interest in. So I have the only players I have in multiple lineups from the Nets are Cam Thomas and Nick Claxton.
Hey, guess what? Big Boy I is playing on Yahoo. He says the site that stopped paying you guys. I was correct. Great.
There we go. So
I would take Davis, and the advantage is the 3 points for blocks and steals. That's my big driver there. I ended up playing LeBron on. Actually, I can tell you real quick since my lineup's going to be Banton, Murphy, Caruso, LeBron, Oubre, DeRozan, and then I'm debating between Walker Kessler and Kelly Oubre. Rudy Gobert for the last 2 spots. I've got time, so I'm setting that aside, and then I'll tweak those guys a little bit there. But the 7 o'clock, I do have 3 7 o'clock guys, so that's important. As someone was saying, would you skip the 7 o'clock games? No, I wouldn't.
I do have a question, by the way, for Chris. Chris, which Showdown contest are you playing in? Because I went to go run lineups for it. I ran lineups for Kings Knicks, assuming that was the game you're talking about. But if that was not what you were asking about, let me know. I felt like it was a safe guess that it was Kings Knicks because that is the featured one. But if that's not correct, just let me know and I can run lines for another one. But we did have Chris ask us before. He wanted us to know the top plays to get to in Showdown for today. So ran lineups for the Kings Knicks game. As far as the captain, it is way more spread out for me than it normally would be for a Showdown. So I got over 20% of Brunson and Sabonis, but then I also had over 10% of Fox and Josh Hart. And then I had some other guys like DiVincenzo, Harrison Barnes, Malik Monk that showed up in some lineups as well. But if we're looking at like the best overall captain options, Sabonis followed by Jalen Brunson, then some secondary options in De'Aaron Fox and Josh Hart. As far as the flex plays that I got the most of, once again, Brunson, Sabonis, they showed up in a ton of lineups. Alex Len as a punt play, actually, mostly because he's just a flat min price at 1K and he's in the rotation. So that makes him playable there. De'Aaron Fox, Josh Hart, Harrison Barnes, and then Malik Monk rounding out the options I was getting to in the flex there. And let's see, what injuries did I look for as well? From that game, we have... Anunoby's questionable. Herder's questionable. So be on the lookout for those 2 pieces of injury news. And then also as far as Big Boy IE's question, also keep in mind that for that Minnesota game, Gobert, Kyle Anderson, and Monty Morris are all on the injury report. So Naz Reid doesn't look great right now. But if Gobert gets ruled out, then Naz Reid would look really good. And then you would definitely want to be putting him into a lot of lineups.
Yep, which is sort of why I'm holding those two together with Kessler there. Best play, Pierre, we'll get to that in just a sec. Would you play no site, but Jalen Smith, Bomba, or Hayward? I would play Bomba. I don't like any of those guys tonight, though.
What was it
Yes.
Jalen Smith or Bomba or Hayward?
Yeah.
Boy.
So Jalen Smith would be off the bench. That's always an adventure.
Yeah, and potentially just scratch for no reason as well. But I am going to go of those players, Mo Bamba, I'm going to say has the most upside just because you don't know what the absence of Tobias Harris might do to the rotation. So of those players, Mo Bamba, Malcolm Revamp, any different tiers that I'm interested in? I kind of feel like that meme, what do you mean by that? Any different tiers that I'm interested in?
Maybe some pivots.
I'll give you my two favorite options at each spot. Maybe that will answer the question. But tier one, Anthony Davis is my favorite option. SGA second favorite. In tier two, Tyrese Maxey followed by Tyrese Halliburton. Tier three, Vooch followed by DeRozan. So that the player I'm listing second would be the pivot. Tier four, DeAndre Ayton followed by Pascal Siakam. Tier five, Denny Avdia followed by Jalen Williams. Then tier six, Miles Turner followed by Jordan Poole. Pierre wants to know best players at each position for FanDuel late slate. Also, guys, don't forget, if you sign up for any package at Stochastic using the link we have below, also gets you access to our Discord channel. But Pierre, best players at each position on FanDuel
I'm running that
slate.
one now, Greg. But if you want to do, did get another one that's more pertinent: Andrew Nemhard or TJ McConnell. The Sims gave me a lot of McConnell. I have about
McConnell over Nemhard.
And we'll get you Pierre your answer in a sec. Here's a 2v2 from Corey Ballmer: Oubre and Trey Murphy, or Desumu and LMI.
Was that in Discord?
No, it's on YouTube.
I didn't see that one. Oh, here. Yeah, it just came across for me. Oubre and Murphy or Desun. Oubre, Murphy, or Desun. Okay. So of all of those guys, I'm going to say Kelly Oubre on just last man in for DraftKings for your Corey. And then in Discord, we got question here from Kraken Tiles. Boost Pool in case Butler starts, but comfortable with how over-owned he is in case Pool starts? Or is there scenario both start? I don't expect both of them to start. I have a lot more exposure to Jordan Poole than I do to Butler right now. My expectation is that Poole starts, but I could be proven wrong once that starting lineup comes out. JEW asked us LeBron and Valanciunas or Vooch and Ingram for FanDuel. For FanDuel, I'm going to say LeBron and Valanciunas. Assume you're talking about a tournament because Valanciunas is about half the ownership of Vooch for tournament purposes.
Yep. And then to wrap it up, this is for the after hours slate on FanDuel. Kyle Anderson, Talen Horton-Tucker, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards are your top four. Then you start getting in some Knicks, Hartenstein, DiVincenzo. Those would be the guys that are popping. They are all 60% or more for the Sims, and they have the better simulated player ROI, which is pushing them to the top. So I would say that's your core pool to build around.
And then also, I ran lineups for the late slate. These are the players I got the most of at each position. It was Conley, THT, Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson also at power forward. So Hartenstein, the second most rostered guy there. And then at center, also Hartenstein the most, but followed by Rudy Gobert. But for those last two games, guys, there's a ton of players that are on the injury report, which part of the reason why FanDuel and DraftKings have started to leave these games off of slates just so that people, aren't waiting for news all night, particularly on something like a Saturday night. But Gobert, Kyle Anderson, OG Anunoby, Kevin Huerter, keep in mind, we're waiting for updates on these guys. And the information that I'm giving you guys for a 2-game slate, it is very much subject to change if these players get ruled out.
All righty. We are at lock, Greg. That was it. We're good.
That is the end. If you guys head on over to Playback, we're going to be putting the games on the screen there, so you guys can go sweat there. If you haven't done it yet on YouTube, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to sweat the games and hang out, go hang out with everybody over in Playback. Any other final thoughts there, EMac?
No, with that, you can follow Greg on Twitter at G Ehrenberg DFS. I am at EMac DFS, and of course, it is stochastic_COM. With that, gamers. Good luck. I am adding the games for you.
All right. See you later, EMac. I am heading out.
Pasta pasta.
All right, man. Have a good weekend.
You too.